We know that Facebook has been down today, but do not worry. There are other entities that are still stealing your data and information. And this one is courtesy of ICE. What they are using is a surveillance program, they're part of this wonderful database that local law enforcement contributes to. And they're able to screen your license plate, gather your information to just build this wonderful database about your ongoings and get your information. And this is kind of a big deal because you'll notice that ICE, they're able to collect on average 150 to 200 million license plates a month. And this is in 50 of the US's largest cities. Also, there are more than 9,000 ICE agents with access to this database. This is absolutely surreal because they're using this to target immigrants unfairly and in some cases illegally. The ACLU provided us with this information following a FOIA request, and the staff attorney who had sued to get this information, well, she said, the public has a right to know when a government agency, especially an immoral and rogue agency such as ICE, is exploiting a mass surveillance database that is a threat to the privacy and safety of drivers across the United States. The government should not have unfettered access to information that reveals where we live, where we work, and our private habits.
Look, guys, if you're worried about Big Brother, whether you're on the left or the right claims they're worried about Big Brother and big government looking in on your private lives. They're secretly recording the license plate of all of us, or at least the ones that are in the jurisdictions that are affected. They're not just recording the license plate of immigrants or undocumented immigrants. The camera doesn't know if you're an immigrant or not, and it knows everywhere you've gone. So it knows your house, it knows your work, and it knows every other place you've gone. So they say, oh no, don't worry, we're gonna only use it for very important criminal cases. That's what they said in the beginning. And we're only gonna use it at the local level. Now it turns out, no, they're not just using it at the local level. They're using it at the federal level. And it turns out it's not just for really important crimes, it's also to track down undocumented immigrants or people they think might be undocumented immigrants. So Big Brother grows and grows and grows.
Right, and I think that's something to remember. I mean, I'm old enough to remember 9/11. And all DHS, Department of Homeland Security, and ICE, these were things that were set up in the wake of 9/11. For those of you who didn't have the privilege of living in a non-completely militarized America, these were entities set up after 9/11 in order to supposedly keep us safe. But what they did was expand the surveillance state. And activists then, as they are now, ACLU then, as they still do now, were raising the alarm bells about that, saying not only is this targeting specifically people of color, Muslim Americans, immigrant Americans, but also all people. And I would argue that DHS and ICE are doing exactly what they were designed to do. And that is why I agree with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and many other politicians and people who say that we need to shut down ICE. ICE needs to go. It is not effective. Even ICE says it needs to go. Like, even they have reported to DHS and to Kristen Nielsen, whatever her name is, that essentially they're not able to do their real job, which should be to focus on if there are dangerous immigrants, if there are actual criminals, not grandmothers who've overstayed their visas, that we should focus on them. So, I just think that we need to, again, if you're on the left or the right, like Cenk is saying, absolutely focusing on the fact that we can replace these institutions with something that doesn't tread on the civil liberties of all people and keep us safe, right? I also think that if you work in tech, remember, your company probably has a DHS contract. Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Salesforce, Palantir, right? And Amazon Web Series are some of the biggest companies that have DHS contracts. And back to this whole, whether boycott is good or not, I absolutely think it is not. It reflects poorly on these companies that they have DHS contracts. This particular software is being, or this database is being run by Vigilant Solutions, which just sounds ominous.
Oh yeah, exactly.
But remembering that like the tech side of this should not be lost on any American, that we have a responsibility to hold them accountable as well.
And the good thing is there are states that are holding people accountable in terms of creating sanctuary laws that say that their local law enforcement cannot contribute and share information to databases like Vigilant, which is good, but that's only about 7 states, one being California. And so the rest of the states and US territories, they are often plugging into this database and dumping information in on all of us. And so we're all vulnerable and exposed. So this is something you might want to push local legislature for, to kind of, block these laws so, old Bob, who's the sheriff, is not turning over your data.
Yeah, and it turns out some cities in California cooperated with ICE when they weren't supposed to anyway.
Yeah.
And so let me read one last thing here. It backs up what Francesca was saying. I'm going to quote TechCrunch. Last year, 19 of the top 90 top ICE investigators, so 19 of the top ICE investigators that investigate serious criminal cases like drug smuggling and sex trafficking rings, called on the government to distance their work from ICE's Enforcement and Removal Operations Unit, which investigates immigration violations and handles deportations.
Right.
So basically what they're saying is, look, ICE was supposed to track down serious crimes.
Yeah.
So now we're doing this extraneous work, and work that is like basically making our job harder, because then people don't trust us and they won't work with us and they won't give us information, so we can't solve real crimes. So that would be an argument by top ICE officials to, in essence, abolish the thing known as ICE now. It doesn't mean that you stop doing those things. It means that you might stop doing some of them. You keep the part that is about investigating serious crimes. You could rename the group, you could do whatever you want, but even the top ICE officials are saying, I don't want to be in the same room as those guys because they're hurting our ability to fight crime. The TYT Plus app is now available on iOS and Android. Download to get more TYT content at tyt.com/app.